What's up, guys? Purpose here. So, I want to talk about politics because, frankly, I'm not a fan of them. I don't like it, and I think it's a complete waste of time. Politics really, I thought, was found on the idea of working to achieve the goal that's best for its people. Because that's what I believe the founding fathers thought. This whole thing was for. This whole government was for. It's for the idea of working for the people. To make government fair. But, as time has gone on and as things have gotten progressively more technologically sound, a lot more advancements in ideas and things of that nature, well, that idea is not stuck true. You have a lot of politicians who are out there kind of, you know, to me, politics is a game of, it's a game of one upmanship, because these guys get elected and they make you promises in elections, and a lot of this stuff when they say they promise things or these things are going to happen, it's just a lot of, to me, empty promises, because a lot of times there's always people, to me at least, behind the scenes of what's going on, and people who actually when you get money from campaigns, those people kind of, they give you money, but there's strings attached to that money. So the idea is that you might have been a guy who was free thinking or that. Well, a guy comes in and gives you about $5 million. They have strings or ideas attached to that money. So politics really just it to me it's ridiculous. It's kind of dumb, and it just, to me, doesn't make sense anymore. It's always about I have to get reelected, so I have to I say these things here in this time, but then at this time then I don't go and execute. I think it's a lot of people not executing things in office, because a lot of times I do understand you have people behind the scenes because they donated money to your campaign that you have to abide by, or things may happen, but it's just, to me, it's not truthful or honest people a lot of the times who are in there. It's a lot of, people with their own agendas. And I think this pandemic, to a certain point, you know, is I think it's brought out a lot of, it's shown a lot of a different side, or the true side of people. All these governors who have shut down the schools, shut down, working for people. And people have pleaded, they've talked about this, talked about their lives and jobs. And it seems that you see a lot of them who are enjoying this control, because what happens is once people are out of work, a lot of what has to happen is they are relying on the government, which means then you get to set the rules and you get to assert more control. I think what's politics and government has become is it's a power struggle of control between the people and the government. And if you don't think it is, then I think you really need to pay closer attention. That's all this really is. Is this, to me, this whole thing happened, this whole thing started when people have just really been living their lives and they haven't been paying a lot of attention to these politics, to the government. Or, we've been misillusioned to not care, I guess. But I don't think so. I think people are waking up to their own extent to where they're not letting this really dictate their lives. So, in order for this whole thing to shift, we are going to have to reassert some control again, and we're going to have to make you guys depend on us. What hence is when you bring in a fear tactic. Now, I do believe of course, there is the flu, and there is definitely a strain of the flu that people aren't immune to. But my thing is going to be the same. If you shut down the economy for something like this, and the thing is, like, people are blaming Trump, and they're talking about Trump about this. He wasn't ready. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Do you really think his first idea would have been to shut down any country's economy? Honestly, I'm not really understanding people's thinking here. I'm pretty sure he's a smart guy. You shut down the economy, you lose jobs. Like, America's unemployment was at its lowest point it's been, like, for years, like years under Trump's leadership. But what's happening is you're not talking about that. You're talking about all the deaths and all that stuff. You know, I'm gonna give the man credit. I think he's done a great job of delivering on a lot of things that he said he would do. When he said unemployment's gonna go down, he delivered on it. You know, so it's just. And then you have people talking about all this other stuff. You have Obama saying that this is a chaotic catastrophe. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said things like that. And it's guys with agendas. What's Obama's agenda? Well, he's endorsing Biden. So he's going out and saying things. He's talking bad about Trump, which of course in political debates and things like that, it's in order to advance yourself, you're going to have to point out people's flaws and things of that nature. And then you have people on MSNBC saying, this guy said, if Obama was president, this wouldn't have happened. When H1N1 happened, I'm pretty sure, over 150,000 people still died. We're not even at that number yet. And are we still months into it in its early stages? Yeah. But we haven't even reached that number. So, this is, I think, kind of ridiculous. And the reason why I don't blame Trump for this is because there was little information on what this was when it was coming out of China. So you can't blame one person for this. If there's one person you should blame, it's Anthony Fauci. Because people, you have to realize, under his guidance and under Dr. was it Ferguson from London who came up with the initial graphs that 2 million people would have died. Not only was he that far off, people have analyzed his data since then, and they've seen that these projections and this whole analysis of what he did was terrible. It was terrible, and it was so far off that they were questioning him in his legitimacy. That's what happened. I'm not mad at Trump. I'm not mad at the death tolls or anything, because to me, you know, I think a lot of deaths are due to influenza. That's what my thinking is. But I think Trump did exactly what he was told to do, which is Anthony Fauci said, shut down the country, lockdown and shut down the economy. Like this whole thing is this whole political thing to me is just, it's all dumb. It's to me, it's a power struggle between the people and the government, and right now the government is winning, because what you have is you have people under this fear and under this under the government's control. They have you right here, and what they're going to keep doing is, I don't really care what happens to me in this video, like what's going to happen is they're just going to keep taking. And as people wake up, which a lot of people are, they're going to a certain point, are they going to allow governments to reopen? Yeah. But what do they keep saying to scare people? There's going to be a second wave. There's going to be a second wave. Okay, we can reopen, but the chances are there's going to be a second wave because of this. If you don't abide by the guidelines, there's going to be a second wave. Listen, people, at a certain point, to hell with this. Honestly, to hell with it. Because if you're not going to go live your life, if you're not going to go do what you have to do to provide for your family, then you might as well be counted in as the COVID death. And I'm being quite honest with you. This doesn't make any sense. If you really think this makes sense to shut down the economy for, I don't know if it's past 80,000 deaths. Okay. I'm not saying deaths shouldn't matter. But at a certain point, you just have to move on, and you have to move forward. It's like, and this is what I mean, it's a power struggle. They have you right here. So what do they have you doing? You're sitting at home, just waiting. And then to think that a $1,200 check is going to support you, like for what? For like a week, maybe two, if you're able to wisely spend it. But what do people have? Bills. People have bills, and a lot of people are divorced, so they have to pay child support. Like this whole thing, it's just a power struggle. And it's a way to assert control to me. That's what this whole thing is, politics and government. It's just a power struggle between the people and the government. And I think it's going to continue to be that way, because a lot of it is not run by people who have similar agendas to people. Once they get there, then the people who elected them, the people who shared their vision, are not really by their side anymore. Then you have the people who paid their way to that position. I mean, the people who donated their money, because then you have to listen to them or they pull the funding. The reason people get reelected is because not only do the same people, but then you have people who are friends with those people donate more money to you, so you get reelected. A lot of what goes into campaigns, and people probably know this, is dollars. And if you can get dollars and a lot of donors, then your campaign keeps going. Because once you have to keep getting people to sign on. So, I mean, that's how this whole thing works. And I think what's really, it's just amazing how, you know, I'll give you guys a great example. If you haven't seen the show Scandal with Kerry Washington and I only really know her real name, not everybody else's real name, but to me, it's one of the best shows of all time. I love it, and I've watched it. I think twice through all the way, and I'll complete it one day. I just haven't watched a whole bunch of it recently. Is it really shows you what goes on behind the scenes, campaigns, donating money, people with agendas behind the scenes, a lot of coups, murders, spies, and things like that. People say it's a TV show, it's reality TV. Well, I think a lot of what we see on TV and things like that actually, if you pay attention, occurs in real life. I'll give you another example. If you've seen the Captain America movies, the last two in particular, Captain America the Winter Soldier and Captain America Civil War, what were those about? Government control. And Captain America the Winter Soldier, what was happening? Hydra was working behind Shield, which was an organization to try and protect the people, so they say. And what you had was Hydra wanting to assert control, so they built three helicarriers, and those helicarriers had an algorithm to them, and what they were doing was scratching people off the list, which means they were killing millions of people at a time to assert their control. Because what they said was Hydra didn't trust people with their own freedom. So what they had was they gave people their freedom, ultimately that they would give it away, which is what Hydra was trying to do. And of course, Captain America, he stopped that because he believes in freedom and all that. But you have to really see you have to see the whole plot of the movie to really get what I'm saying. What was Captain America Civil War about? Government control. Every time the heroes went out and saved, the world, so to say, there was always collateral damage, people dying, even though people were getting saved. Millions of people getting saved, but still thousands dying. You know, what were they going to do? They were going to have ultimate control of where the heroes go, what the heroes do and say. What was Captain America trying to talk about? Freedom. These people. This whole thing is run by people with agendas, and agendas change. Agendas don't stay the same. And here's where I go back to my point of government control. The government and people in power who we don't always know who's really in power, their agendas change. Once they have certain control, what are they going to do? Oh, this works, so let's test this out. I'm not trying to go into all these conspiracies and all this deep state stuff, because really, you know, all that stuff is out there. Whether they call it conspiracies and not true, it's out there. You can find it because there's many people who have found it for you. But this whole thing, it's always about government control over the people. And as people continue to wake up, what happens to that little struggle? What happens to their little grip? It eases, right? It eases to where then at a certain point they can't control you, which was, I think, before this whole thing, they didn't have too much of a hand. They had a hand on it, but it wasn't too much. This whole pandemic goes down, people start, abiding by the rules, social distancing. Bam! Vice grip tighten on society. It just happened like that quick. People wearing masks. Like, people, do you understand that you're breathing back in the CO2 that you just breathed out? I thought these scientists and doctors would tell you that can make you sick. Like, are you kidding me? You're breathing back in the toxins that you just breathed out. So what is that going to do to your immune system? It's going to weaken it. Now, of course, doctors are going to say, that's not true, but, scientifically, I'm pretty sure you could prove that that's true. Anyway, so I gave you two movies. I gave you a show. This whole thing to me, this whole politic thing, this whole thing against Trump, when this really isn't even Trump's fault. I think Trump did exactly what he was supposed to do. Because when you're talking about a new virus, of course you have to take precautions. The only thing I disagree with is listening to Fauci and Deborah. Dang it, I forgot her name. I don't know if it's Fox or Deborah I don't know. I don't remember, honestly. I mean, I really don't pay attention to these people anymore. But when you listen to them saying we got to shut down the country, Honestly, when I first heard it, something just has to go off and say, I have to shut down the economy and we're going to have millions of people unemployed and our unemployment's going to go through the roof. We're going to have, and this is so crazy because you think these unemployment agencies were really prepared for this when you did this? You think they were prepared? Of course not. It's like it's this whole. If you don't see how this is planned, I really don't know what to tell you. I'm really not trying to get irritated here, but this whole thing is laid out right in front of you. There's plenty of movies that you can really watch. These Marvel movies, you can kind of see by the plot that this kind of thing plays into real life. Like seriously, scandal, that stuff happens in real life where people are manipulated to these agendas by people who have these agendas. Hopefully that made sense. I wasn't trying to be confusing. This whole thing is agenda driven. Um, so, it's whatever. I hope you guys understand. I apologize for making this long, but I really kind of had to just throw that out there. And when I was thinking about this, it was going to be short, but then it kind of led to into this whole thing that I really wanted to say for a while. Finally get off my chest. It's agenda driven. This, like, if you don't think people have agendas to this whole thing, if you don't think people want control out of this, then, all power to your opinion. All power to you just believing whatever you hear. But, unless, you control your own mind, I really don't know what else to say to you. Like, this really isn't hard to piece together if you're looking at the evidence right in front of you. Honestly, it's not hard to see if we shut down the country because of a pandemic. And tell you real quick something about H1N1. The H1N1 affected more people of the younger population, younger than 65, than this does to the people over 65. So that's what the WHO said. And I think they said a pandemic happens when you affect more people under that age. Or I don't really. I'll have to make a different video because I don't want to say that wrong. But it was they have a weird definition of a pandemic. So we're probably gonna have to go over that in a different video. But this is probably gonna do it. This is my video for today. I don't want to. I think I'll keep talking about this more because like I'm not trying to wake anybody up. I'm influencing you by different things. Like this isn't hard to see. This isn't hard to look at. This isn't hard to, look at the evidence in front of you. Like every news channel, what do you see? People are opening up, but all these people are we're at a risk if we do that because there could be a second wave. And then you have people saying there's definitely going to be a second wave in fall. And, do we really know that for sure? They really don't know that for sure. But the way they say it, you believe them because they sound so assured of themselves. So, you know, it's gonna be what it is, honestly. Had something else on my mind, but I kind of forgot it as I was saying that. So, but thank you guys for listening. I just hope you guys, whatever happens to you, I hope you just hope you're making it through. Appreciate you guys listening and watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.